Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right in today because we're unpacking a truly fascinating psychological dynamic. We're going to be looking at the compelling link between intelligence and that nagging, persistent feeling of being completely disconnected from the traditional path of life. It's like a giant puzzle, and today we're going to break down the mechanics of conformity, authority, and identity to see how all the pieces fit together.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever just looked around at the standard path of life? You know, the expected milestones, the unwritten social contracts we're all just supposed to agree to, and felt profoundly disconnected from the whole shebang? Have you ever felt like an outsider looking in on a game that everyone else seems perfectly happy playing? Honestly, it's an intensely personal and deeply relatable feeling. But here's the kicker. This alienation isn't just some random quirk of your personality. It's actually driven by a very specific, hidden psychological mechanism.
Section 1. The outsider phenomenon. The hidden force behind the disconnect. So, the core premise here is pretty clear. Highly intelligent people often feel like outsiders in traditional life. If you've ever experienced this yourself, it's gotta be so incredibly validating to just see it laid out so plainly. Right? The traditional life, that standard progression of expectations society lays out for us, well, it just doesn't always compute for a highly active, highly intelligent mind. This profound feeling of not fitting in is actually a byproduct of high cognitive function. You aren't just imagining the disconnect. Your brain is literally processing your environment in a way that separates you from the conventional pack. Moving on to Section 2. Intellect versus conformity. Unpacking the psychological driver.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating step-by-step chain reaction. We start right at the top with high intelligence. See, when a brain is highly intelligent, it doesn't just accept things at face value. No way. It analyzes, it actively looks for inefficiencies, and it constantly seeks logical foundations. Because of this, it leads directly to lower conformity. Think about it. If you're constantly analyzing the world around you, you're just way less likely to blend in and do what everyone else is doing simply because, that's how it's always been done. Which brings us to the behavioral outputs, questioning rules and questioning authority. High intelligence effectively short-circuits that blind acceptance of authority, creating a mind that fundamentally requires things to make sense before it's willing to fall in line.
Section 3. Questioning the rules. A natural tendency. I really want to place a heavy emphasis on that word natural. This is a natural tendency to question rules and authority. This is absolutely crucial because it completely removes the stigma. Society often paints those who question the rules as intentional rebels, troublemakers, or just generally difficult people. But for the highly intelligent individual, questioning rules isn't some act of malicious defiance. Actually, scratch that. It's not defiance at all. It's literally just how they process the world. It's an inherent trait. They see established structures, and their brain naturally stress tests those structures to see if they hold up to basic logic. And when those structures inevitably don't hold up, the natural result is a pushback against that authority.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds. The quiet identity conflict. The internal friction.
So the crucial point we arrive at is the quiet identity conflict. This is the internal friction that arises when someone desperately wants freedom, but feels pressured to follow conventional social milestones. Let that sink in for a second. This is the heavy internal struggle that results from that lack of conformity we were just talking about. You have a highly intelligent mind that naturally questions authority and craves the absolute freedom to forge its own logical path. But you also live in a society that exerts a massive, continuous pressure to conform to its conventional milestones. The collision of those two realities, it creates a quiet, agonizing friction inside the individual.
Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is that you are essentially weighing two massive opposing forces. On one hand, we have the desire for freedom. This represents the open, expansive nature of high intelligence, the desire to live logically, authentically, and without all those arbitrary constraints. It's a light, energetic, forward-moving drive. But on the other hand, we have the heavy pressure of conventional social milestones. This is the rigid, historically established weight of society constantly telling you what you should be doing. The friction happens right smack in the middle. The intelligent mind knows those conventional milestones might be entirely arbitrary, but the societal pressure to achieve them is still a very real, very heavy burden to carry.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've seen how high intelligence naturally leads to lower conformity. We've seen how that creates a mind that naturally questions authority, ultimately resulting in the friction of the quiet identity conflict. So the question I want to leave you with today is this.
How do you navigate the balance between intelligence, the desire for freedom, and those conventional milestones? How do you manage that quiet identity conflict in your own life? It's a profound challenge for sure, but understanding the hidden psychological drivers behind it is the very first step to finding your own balance. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.